What is happening, my good people? It's your mentor, Stefan Limited, and I'm back with another one once again. So right here on the chart, I've gold on your 30 minutes time frame. I just want to recap what I've been doing for the past week. I've only traded three times this week because I've been it's been hectic actually. So, let's start here. I'll just zoom out so you guys are able to see properly, right? So, I identified that we're obviously in a channel, right? So, from this point, this way I analyzed. From this point to that point, I understood this is a channel that we're in. From here to there, meaning that the market sold from this point to that point. From this point, it bounced again and bought. However, I knew that it had to come back within the 90% of the zone, which is around here, for me to enter those selling opportunities, right? But obviously, I had to wait for confirmation for me to enter for those sells. So as soon as I waited for the market to come and tap into those point, this is where I entered my sells, right? Right. Let me see, it's 13s here. From the 15s, probably around here. This is where I entered my sells, right? And then my take profit was just below this low right here. This is where I took profit, and my stop loss was just below. Yeah, right. So I understood that, okay, since the market did tap into the zone, it either had to come back within this point or 90% of it, right? And this is the 90% of this zone, right? Remember, the lowest point, it always comes back to the 90%. This is where I was actually looking for maturity buying opportunity. So as soon as I took profit on this point, I entered again, which was around this area right here. And I was targeting this high right here, which is this zone. And my stop loss was just below. Right? So my stop loss looked something like this, right? So I knew that obviously this was a win trade. So I won once, won twice. Then the third trade that I took, it actually went to a loss. However, it was in profit for those few moments, which is right here. Let me just scale down to the 15 minutes. It was in profit because I understood it needed to come back to the 90% of what this zone right here. I'll just scale out if it doesn't show. Okay, no, it's fine. It had to come back to the 90% of this zone. You know what? Let me just go to the 1 hour so you guys understand what I'm actually talking about when I talk about 90%. Oh. So on the 1 hour, I did draw my lines where it could possibly turn, right? So from this point, I was looking at it turning from either this point or this point. So as we see, let's go down, let's go up actually. From that point, all the lines, the two lines that I drew, that was my high possibility trades where I was willing to take either those selling opportunities or those buying opportunities, right? So I entered too early here. I saw my mistake. You know, with trading, it's all about you identifying where you've went wrong and where you've went right, right? So from this point, I had to obviously look for those, my bad. I had to look for those selling opportunities from within this point, but because of fear of missing out, I actually entered early, which then made my position to go into what my stop loss and then proceed into the proper direction, right? My take profit was initially this point or this point right here. But because I had fear of missing out, I entered at this point, which then the market turned where I should have actually taken my positions. It turned exactly where I was supposed to take my position and then proceeded to the proper, what's this, take profit. So guys, with trading, you learn. It's not always about winning. It's all about what you learn from your losses. So what I've learned is that do not enter a trade until you get the proper confirmation, and do not enter a trade until it gets to a certain point where it needs to get, right? So because I entered here, I had that fear of missing out, which we call FOMO, right? So I had that, which then the market backfired and then initially proceeded to my direction. So for the week, what am I looking for next week? I'm just gonna start analyzing again. Okay, I usually start from the 4 hour. I'll just pause this so that it's not that long, right? Let me just pause. Okay. So I don't really do much, right? So the only thing I did, I drew my highest point, which was here. The market bounced off at this point. Then I was obviously looking for the 90%, which was obviously here. 90% rule, right? So then that's where it turned. right? So now I'm in a zone. I'm going to scale down to my 1 hour. I know that I'm either looking for sells within this point or buys from within this point, or I'm looking for a continuation from this point going further down, or I'm looking for what, a continuation from this point going further up. So what am I looking for? As I said, continuation or what? Rejection. So on Monday, what am I looking for? I'm gonna either look for the market to either tap in within the 90% of this zone, which would possibly be here, to what, go up, right? Go further. Or my second bias is that from this point, I'm either looking for it to what, tap to the 90% of this zone and go down from this point, which is where I'll be looking for what, my buying opportunities to come break this point. You see how simple it is, how I simply simplified everything. Mark your high, mark your low. Mark your current high, mark your current low. Look for either 90% of where it's gonna turn or 90% of where it's gonna reject. Simple. That's how I trade. That's how I've been trading. That's how I make money. I make it simplicity, guys. Simple as it is. Don't make it complicated. Next thing you're throwing in, you don't understand. I mean, I used to draw trend lines a lot, right? But now, since I've understood that the market moves with supply and demand, I don't really trade trend lines anymore. But if you just want to get the proper picture of how to trade and how to look at the market, I would suggest that you draw that channel of those trend lines. But with that being said, that's what I'm looking for. For your gold. That's what I'm looking for when it comes to your gold. So I'm either looking for this point to reject within here or 90% of this point, come back and then look for those buys, or for it to really reject at this point. But I don't think this will really work, right? So right now, this is what I'm looking for. That rejection from the 90%, come back down to come close this gap, either 90% of this gap or full, like double bottom and then continuation up. That's basically what I'm looking for, guys. As simple as it is. Thank you for watching this video. Kindly like, subscribe, share to your friends, share to everyone. The link of the broker I use, which is RazorMarkets, will be on the description below. Thank you for watching. And if you want to know more about Forex, you want to learn, you're interested in getting your artificial intelligence, which is your self-trading bot, instead of you analyzing the market every single day, you just plug and play. Make sure that you text me on 068-243-5790. It's your boy, Rich Define Limited, signing out.